Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Please get settle down. We're going to get started with our third session on power and participation. So the first paper is towards a better understanding of the computer vision research community in Africa. And we have two amazing speakers here. Omotayo and Gamal.
I'm Abdul-Hakeem Omotayo and Gamal. We are a member of a computer vision grassroots initiative in Africa called Rafia. We kind of like work on exploring computer vision research within the African community. We also bring together various computer vision researchers across Africa to make sure that we can do research that are indigenous and provide solutions to indigenous problems within the African community. So before I would like to introduce some other initiatives that are very similar and where we got our inspiration from. So we have two different research initiatives. The first one is on K-Biotech, which focuses on machine learning for health. It's a very big research community, and they have a very similar work to what we are doing here, but with a focus on health. And we also have Academy, which is an NLP research initiative that focuses on African languages. So these two fantastic research initiatives are where we got our inspiration from. And we also have another one, which is the annual meeting, where we have researchers that meeting annually to discuss research and push each other forward, share research and collaborate. So these three ideas are where we sort of push together research for AI and machine learning in Africa. So for Royal, we have representation across various parts of Africa. We have from Egypt, we have from Tunisia, we have from Senegal, Ghana, Benin, Nigeria, and Cameroon. So we are also looking forward to have representation from other parts of Africa, but frankly, this is where we have highly represented. Now, to the key contribution of our paper, we have four main contributions. The first is that our paper, our research is the first implementing study that looks into research emanating from the African continent and focus on documenting various inequities that are within the computer vision research within Africa. Also, we documented disparity between publications and access to top-tier conferences and journals. And thirdly, we also looked at various temporal trends across the 5 African regions and how they collaborate with each other and also with researchers outside of Africa, and also looked at what are the key things they are focusing on, like what are the ideas they are researching by doing a keyword analysis. We also try to identify most of the African researchers that are used in this project based on their affiliation history by looking at Scopus index database. So to the methodology. For getting our data, we looked at data set between 2012 and 2022, that's a decade, and of course restricted to African countries. This query was performed on Scopus, which is an auxiliary index. And then we had our first set of data, which is the full set, called the full set, basically running a query of image or computer vision through that database. We had some results. Then to restrict the data set a little bit further so that we can analyze it and have a reasonable conclusion, we had the refined set, which is basically the results we had earlier, saved further by using some 50 keywords, for example, deep learning. Then the full set, which is the original data, had about 3,000 publications, and the refined set, which is a smaller one, haven't gone through that 50 keywords. It's 18,000. Then we have another top tier set, which helped us navigate for how our African research contributing to top tier journals. The top tier journals are those listed below, which is CVPR, ICB, and TPAMI and MICA. So we had about 43,000 publications from that. So these three sets of publication database are what we did analysis on. Then the next step was we performed automatic verification, and likewise we then did manual verification. So the manual verification was done on about 5% of the overall data set from the refined sets. We just took a random sample. Then some of the issues we found out was that, okay, even though we are trying to get all this data and looking at for affiliation history, we still have some errors basically by the by Scopus itself, which is swapping of countries like Swaziland, which is a smaller country in Africa, with Switzerland, which is another country in Europe. And they had Papua New Guinea, which is a different country in Africa, swapped with Guinea. So these are issues of labeling that we ended up resolving. And we also found out there are some publications that are largely relevant to computer vision, like they would have something like image data in their keyword or in the abstract. But at the end, when you look through the publication, it's nothing about computer vision. So we have to remove that out too. Then we also filtered out of scope publications, which are likely publications like conference review or publications that have been retracted. So having gone through this verification phase, we had we then performed our data analysis. So we had three types of analysis. We looked at geotemporal analysis, which is looking at the 5 different African regions and what are the population patterns within those regions. Then afterwards, we looked at collaboration patterns within African countries themselves, and then how they collaborate with international community. Then the third one is looking at highlighting what kind of research, what kind of topic are these regions focusing on, and then trying to see if there is a common theme within them. Moving on, I'll pass on the mic to Gamal.
So can you hear me? Thanks, Hakeem. And as Hakeem said, I am Eman. I'm a PhD student from Egypt. And now I will present the results of our work. So first, I will present the results of the geotemporal analysis represented in this figure. So this figure shows the number of publications of African publications across the years, the 10 years, from 2012 to 2022, in the 5 regions, African regions that we have studied. And what this figure says is that the North Africa region is leading in terms of computer vision publications across the 10 years, all the years, followed by the South Africa region. And then when it comes to the Western and Eastern Africa, we can see that these 4 regions, they are less than the North and South Africa. However, from 2016 to 2022, they started to increase, like there is a consistent increase in their number of publications, which is good. However, when it comes to Central Africa, we can see that it's the least region in Africa with the least number of publications, with no rate of increase or even consistent rate of increase. So if we need to summarize what we can get from this figure is that Eastern and Western Africa, they are less than North and South Africa, but they are getting to do it, like they are increasing. And even in 2022, they are starting to bridge the gap with South Africa. However, when it comes to Central Africa, it's only contributing 0.9% of the total African populations, which is a very small number across all the years, which means that Central Africa needs some pushing in the work. Then this second figure, again in the geotemporal analysis, it shows the complication research repairs. But this time, it's not the total computer vision publications, it's only the top tier computer vision publications. And why top tier? It's because computer vision publication research, computer vision research is like led by these top tier venues. So we wanted to study how well Africa is doing in this top tier venues. So we studied Africa with other continents, like with other 5 continents across the globe. And what we can see here from this figure is that Africa is like it's the least region with the least number of populations compared to the other continents. It actually contributes only with 4.06% in the top tier values, which is like it's less than it's less than 0.1%, which shows that this number is low and it needs to be increased. However, we can see that under-resourced countries such as Madagascar, it was able to contribute to leading ML values, although it's facing a lot of struggles. So this shows that there is a need to increase the populations. However, some small countries were able to do it. Then, when we move to the collaboration pattern analysis, this figure shows the international collaborations versus the African to African collaborations in Africa. So what we can say from this figure is that the international collaborations in Africa is dominating, and the African collaborations, it's less than international collaborations. It's only 3.9% of the total collaborations in Africa. So what does this say? It says that the international collaboration is good. It's helping Africa to get more research. However, we need to push more for collaborations between the African countries, not just between international and African. Then we did keyword analysis, and with the keyword analysis, we tried to see what are the top topics that each region works on. So here we can see that for North Africa, it works more in image segmentation, and for South Africa, it works more on galaxies, which was a strange result that we find, but there is a project in South Africa that is working on galaxies, so maybe that's why. And for East and Western Africa, they work more on remote sensing, and for Central Africa, they work more on image encryption. So what we think from these results is that we don't know really why each of these topics are important for these regions. So it's an open research question for the future, is that each region work on its most important needs or not? Really, this is a future question that we need to answer. So this is our result, and if we need to summarize, we can say that the North African region is dominating in terms of the number of computer vision publications, and East and Western Africa, they are following. There is a recent increase in their publications, and there is still a gap in Central Africa. So the question for the future is how to increase the computer vision research capacity in Africa, and especially Central Africa. And second, the African contributions in top tier venues is only 0.06%, which is a low number, and we need to increase it. So the question is, what could be the potential barriers and how to improve our research ecosystem to overcome them? And then we have shown that the African collaborations are fewer compared to international collaborations. International collaborations are really appreciated, but we need to increase the African collaborations. So the research question for the future is, how can we strengthen the African to African collaborations? So this is the summary of our work. But for the future, we first need to say that final takeaway from our community earlier is that we see that a responsible direction in AI is to encourage African researchers and institutions to have impactful participation in the computer vision research. That's what we really need to do for Africa. And in the future, we are currently working on as a community on establishing an academic community of African faculty to discuss the computer vision syllabus. And we are currently working on a questionnaire to understand better the barriers that are facing the African researchers. That's it. Thank you. So, but before ending, this is our two QR codes, one for the questionnaire. So if you are an African researcher, please just help us by filling this questionnaire to better understand the African research. And this is a QR code for our Slack link as a community of project. We are happy to help you there. So, and if you have any questions to us, thank you for listening.